Well, I finally got my hands on it. This is the German F-4F Phantom, at least a very early model of it. The Germans needed an air superiority fighter, and therefore did not want their Phantom with the complex, expensive, and more importantly heavy, ground attack systems on board. This removed the CCIP amongst other things, making it much harder to ground attack in this jet. The plane also doesn't feature any sorts of flares or countermeasures, but the reduced weight of the F4 does make it much more nimble. So how does this Phantom sit in the current meta of missile thunder? Well, stick around to find out, lads. Alright lads, today I'm going to be talking about the weapons performance and playstyle of the F-4F Phantom. Starting as always with the basics, this vehicle is a rank 6 battle rating 10.7 jet fighter located in the German tech tree. Being a rank 6 tech tree vehicle, it will come fully stock and will only be effective at researching vehicles between the ranks of 5 and 6. To unlock this plane, you will have to grind out the ongoing crafting events in War Thunder, or alternatively, purchase the jet off the Gaijin store. At the time of recording, the F-4F is currently being sold for around 90 Gaijin coins, and it will probably be substantially lower than that come the end of the event. So if you do want this plane, it may end up being a bargain after around the 12th of April. For a top tier jet, the plane is fairly economically friendly to play, only having a repair cost of 8,700 silver lions. This plane is of course new, so you should expect for the repair cost to increase in the coming months. Going on to the rewards, and the F-4F has a base modifier of 2.26, giving you a base RP modifier of 226% with a free-to-play account, and 452% with a premium account. You also have a base Silverline modifier of 2.0, which gives you a base Silverline modifier of 200% with a free-to-play account, and 300% with a premium account. In terms of customization, there is one camouflage available to purchase for Golden Eagles. In this video we're going to cover the performance and weaponry of the vehicle, before finishing with a conclusion. If you do enjoy these reviews, then please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. Starting with the engine and flight characteristics, and the F-4F is powered by two MTU J79 afterburning engines. They produce 5,200 kg of thrust at military power and 8,010 kg of thrust when using the afterburner, for a combined afterburning power output of 16,020 kg of thrust. This is exactly the same as the F-4E, and more than double the power output of the MiG-21 base, which only produces 7,220 kg of thrust, but the latter is a much lighter aircraft. These engines give the plane a respectable climb rate of 192 meters per second with clean wings, and when carrying 4 air-to-air missiles, that drops down to 178.2 meters per second. In comparison to the F-4E again, when it carries 4 air-to-air missiles, it can sustain a climb rate of 175.5 meters per second, which does give you a slight advantage over the American Phantom. But compared to the 21 bis, which has a climb rate of 224 meters per second, you are at a serious disadvantage. But what about top speed? Well, it is better than the F-4E, better by 2 km per hour. That means nothing, and your top speed is basically just the same as the F-4E. You can reach 2,140 km per hour at an altitude of 12.2 km. This makes you slightly slower than the MiG-21 base, but most of the time you're fighting on their team, so this means nothing. The thing to take away from this info is that no matter which side you're fighting on, no one is significantly faster than you, with the exception of the F-104s, but they can't turn for shite. But what about that turn rate? The F-4F gets the Agile Eagle upgrade. When the F-4E was originally added to the game, it too had the Agile Eagle modification, but it was shortly removed. This modification adds leading edge slats onto the wing. These extend at slow speeds when the aircraft is turning. This increases the lift of the wing, reducing your turn time, and giving you significantly better maneuverability compared to the other Phantoms in game. It also makes you much better in a sustained dogfight against MiGs. Make no mistake, when both you and a MiG have energy, the MiG will be able to pull a higher AOA, but when you both get slow, your leading edge slats will give you the advantage. Your roll rate and turn rate are both very good, and you will need to use them. As I mentioned, this plane lacks any sort of flares or countermeasures, and this forces you to maneuver in order to evade incoming missiles, something which will rapidly drain you of your energy, and therefore your ability to turn, regardless of your Agile Eagle upgrades. A smart opponent will repeatedly boom and zoom you, forcing you slow, and then closing in for an easy kill. Because of this, you can't really play the F-4F too aggressively. It's better to take off and then side climb to the side of the map, before turning back in a few minutes into the game. Basically the exact same playstyle as the Draken, Mirage 3C and the F5A. Overall, the performance of the F-4F is slightly better than the other Phantoms currently in the game, but not by much. The turn rate is vastly better, but the engine power, acceleration, top speed and climb rate are all pretty much exactly the same. This is by no means bad, but it doesn't give you a mobility advantage over the other jets. Moving on to the weapons, and as I mentioned in the introduction, the F-4F does not have a ballistic computer or constantly calculated impact point. This would give you a reticle on the screen, telling you where your cannon and rockets will impact. It's pretty common for the newer jets in game, such as the MiG-21 base and the F-4E, to have a ballistic computer, but it is not present on the F-4F, as it was not made for ground attack. But starting with your primary cannon, and you have an internally mounted M61 Vulcan minigun. Being only a 21mm cannon, you do get quite a lot of hits with this gun, and you will need to land quite a lot of rounds on a target to actually get a kill. This issue is compounded by the fact you have a relatively small ammunition count of just 640 rounds, and with a fire rate of over 6,000 rounds per minute, you get just under 6 seconds of fire time. This shortage of ammunition is a problem shared by all of the newer models of the Phantom. The older American F-4C, and then the British Phantoms, which all still use the belly-mounted M61s, all have an ammunition count of 1,200 rounds. The low ammunition count will make the stock ground of this vehicle quite tricky. Remember, this is an event vehicle, not a premium, so you will have to unlock all of the missile systems. When you first get this plane in RRB, you will only have the guns available to get a kill. This stock syndrome is made worse by, as I mentioned, the fact you do not have a ballistic computer, so it makes even strafing ground targets rather tricky. But if one M61 Vulcan isn't enough, you can also carry 2 additional cannons for a total of 3 Vulcan miniguns, which is an unholy amount of firepower. There are trade-offs though. Your performance is a lot worse with the additional gun pods, but you do have very good head-on performance, as well as substantially more trigger time. The F-4F can also carry 2 different types of dumbfire rockets. The first type you gain access to are the Mighty Mouse rockets. These have a maximum speed of 701 meters per second and contain an explosive warhead of 1.2 kilograms of TNT. This gives the rocket 290mm of penetration at all ranges. These rockets aren't too bad, but because you don't have a ballistic computer, it's very hard to efficiently use them. I believe the second dumbfire rockets to be much superior. These are the Zuni Mark 32s. They are slightly faster at 722 meters per second and contain a whopping 8.9 kilograms of TNT, giving them 457mm of penetration. Again, like the Mighty Mouse rockets, you don't have a ballistic computer to aid your aiming. Due to the Zunis being physically much larger than the Mighty Mouse, you can only carry a maximum of 60 of them, compared to the 285 Mighty Mouse may be able to carry. Up next are the good old-fashioned dumb bombs, of which you can carry 4 different types. The smallest option are the 24 500-pound bombs, giving you 12,000 pounds of bomb load in total. You can also carry 16 750-pound bombs, giving you 12,000 pounds. You also have 11 1,000-pound bombs, giving you 11,000 pounds. And finally, you can carry 3 2,000-pound bombs, giving you 6,000 pounds of ordnance. Like most of the other American jets, the 750-pound bombs seem to be the most usable loadout. They have a destructive radius of 11 meters, making them fairly easy to use. And finally we come on to the missiles of this plane, of which you have 3, all of which are infrared-seeking warheads. Unlike the more modern F-4s, the F-4F does not have the ability to carry AM-7 Sparrow semi-active homing missiles. This isn't too bad to be honest. The Sparrows can be effective, but they're buggy at the best of times. But the first missile you get access to is the AM-9B FGW. In real life this was a European modification of the old AM-9B. It did have slightly better tracking in real life, however in War Thunder they seem to be basically clones of the AM-9B, so practically useless at battle rating 10.7. The next missile is the AM-9E. It has slightly better tracking than the previous missile, but nothing too fancy. The one notable thing is the enhanced top speed of the E variant. Not only does this make the missile faster, but it gives it slightly longer range as well. The AM-9Es are pretty decent, but they struggle greatly at 10.7. They're good enough to kill enemies in low energy states, but don't come close to the performance of our final piece of weaponry. These are the AM-9Js. They have 20 Gs of maximum overload and have a very large tracking cone, making them exceptional for killing manoeuvring enemies. While I wouldn't say they're as good as the R60s at the minute, they're still incredibly potent in game. These missiles are fairly reliable against opponents at medium range. They can be dodged at close range if your opponent flurs or rapidly rolls, but the same thing can be said about most missiles currently in the game. Overall, the weapons available to the F-4F are pretty good. You have great anti-air and anti-ground loadouts, giving you the ability to use this in combined battles. But the effectiveness of the F variant is significantly less than that of the E and EJ Phantom variants. To conclude, the F-4F is a very mixed bag. Let's start with the positives. The performance of the jet is very good. The reduced weight, same great engines, and the leading edge slats give you one of the most capable Phantom variants in the game. Not only does it retain the great low altitude power as all the other Phantoms, but it also has an enhanced turn rate. While this isn't good enough to fight the F-5A, Mirage or the Draken, it still gives you a fighting chance in a sustained turn fight against any other top tier jet. The plane also has great air-to-air missiles. The AIM-9Js are one of the best performing missiles at top tier at the minute, and the other payload options aren't bad either. You can bring a vast amount of bombs and rockets into both ground and realistic battles, and do a lot of work with them in both game modes. Due to recent changes in the matchmaking, the Germans now typically fight alongside the Soviets, meaning that the MiG-21 BIS is now on your team, which will somewhat artificially improve the win rate of this plane. But let's go on to the negatives, and our first one relates back to the weaponry, and you can probably already guess it, yeah, it's the lack of the CCIP. I know I've mentioned it a few times now, but you really don't know how useful it is until you can't use it. It makes aiming dumb bombs and rockets so much easier. You also don't have Sparrows or air-to-ground missiles. This is a problem the British Phantoms also have. Being in the German territory, you could of course just use the G91R3, which probably is a better option for CAS in my opinion. But the biggest downside of the plane by far is a lack of flares or countermeasures. This significantly reduces your ability to evade incoming IR and radar guarded missiles. This puts you at a huge disadvantage to almost all of the other top tier jets. Most people are now flying the MiG-21 BIS, F-4E, EGA or the British Phantoms, all of which have flares. This allows the enemies to defeat your own missiles, but you can't defeat theirs. While you could remedy this by positioning and intelligent plays, no one is good enough to always pull off successful engagements, and a lack of flares will get you killed. As I said earlier at the time of recording, the price of this plane is around 90 Gaijin coins, which is by far more than what this plane is worth. I'd say for around 40 Gaijin coins it's a decent buy, or if you unlock it from grinding, then it's a fair reward. This plane doesn't challenge the meta, and it doesn't really fit it either. It's kind of like the MiG-21 SMT. It's got good performance and good missiles, but everybody knows it gets dunked on because it lacks flares. The F-4F is fun to fly, but not a particularly good grinder. It's fun to play a few games, but if you're getting this jet to play over and over, or to grind the Germans, or to learn how to fly jets, then you aren't going to be having a great time. Alright lads, thank you very much for watching this video. What do you guys think about this vehicle? If you have any questions or suggestions to improve the channel, then please feel free to leave a comment below. I now have community memberships enabled for the channel. If you'd like access to behind the scenes footage, as well as access to content a few hours early, then please do consider becoming a member. I'd also like to mention that I now have a Twitch account, where I stream pretty frequently, so if you'd like to follow me there, my Twitch handle is SAKO Sniper, the same as this YouTube channel. But if you do enjoy these sorts of reviews, then please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. But more importantly lads, I hope you have a great day, and thank you very much for watching.